What's going on, guys? It's Jake from intheworksmedia, and we're playing Black Ops, and you're probably like, wow, I didn't think I'd ever have to see you play Black Ops again. Well, I have all these leftover gameplays, and I figured I might as well get them out to you guys, because there's some pretty good gameplays in here, and I want to point out that we are using the AUG, and a lot of people frown upon the AUG and the FAMAS, and I don't really know why, because the AUG is really not that good. It's got good rate of fire, but that's about it. And this is a really shortened down gameplay. I cut out some big chunks of it, so all you conspiracy theorists out there can be at ease, because if you're wondering why the score changes at one point, it's because I cut out a piece, guys. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I figured it's better than sitting through, a 10.5-minute gameplay. So, anyways, the topic at large here is, you've probably noticed from the title, is college. And it is one of the most frequent questions I get is, what are some tips for going to college? What are some tips of, transitioning from college into the real world? And a little backstory on me in particular is I went to college for political science and history, and I concentrated in statistics for political science, so that's kind of like campaign statistics, people statistics. I could probably tell you what the likelihood of a certain precinct voting on a proposition is based on numbers, past results and stuff like that. Pretty boring stuff. History, I concentrated in U.S. history, so pretty boring. But LAS degrees are really broad, so they're not specialized. So a lot of times it's a little bit more difficult to market yourself as a LAS degree holder. And I'm not bashing LAS degrees in any way, because obviously I have one of my own, but it is a more difficult to market degree, and that's one of the first tips I could ever give you guys. If you are really worried about coming out of college, you got to make sure that you know how you're going to market yourself. You can't just be like, well, I have a political science degree, so it's going to be useful in all aspects of life. It's like, oh, I can use this for this. I know how to measure people statistics, therefore I'll be a good salesman. Silly things like that. Usually LAS degrees get away with doing things like that, but I would suggest if you're thinking of getting a degree similar to political science, let's say you're going to get a degree in economics or sociology, I would suggest that you make sure you know what you're going to concentrate in, and you know what you want to use that for, because it's not really easy transitioning from being a professional student to being a professional, hey, it's time to live my life and live on my own and make money and stuff like that. So coming out of college, I actually had a job that was pretty good. It didn't pay great, but it was good experience. I was doing research. I had been a TA for the political science department in the past. I actually was a TA for Political Science 100, and if you ever need help on your political science homework, I'm your man. So go ahead and come to me with that. I'll help you guys out. I can be your Call of Duty playing political sciencer. I don't think that's the right word. Political scientist. Let's just call that. But anyways, all joking aside, coming out of college, I actually ended up losing the job that I thought I was going to have when I graduated because of the dire financial straits of dire financial straits. That's like a Dire Straits tribute band, Dire Financial Straits. But anyways, Illinois itself was in really bad shape financially, so they cut a lot of funding to the university, and the department I was in was actually completely wiped out, which meant, I didn't know what I was going to do when I graduated. Here I was thinking I was going to have, this just, get me by kind of job where I would be able to pay my rent, eat my food, play my video games, but that job disappeared, and I was like, well, guess it's time to move home. And a lot of people would be pretty bummed out about that, but I sat down and I was like, it's not really going to matter that much, because in the long run, moving home is something that I would actually suggest to a college grad. If you're unsure of what you're going to do post-college, do not feel embarrassed to move home. It's not like you're defeated if you move home. It's actually a very smart financial decision, because it'll save you a lot of money up front while you're looking for jobs. That being said, if there's an area that you want to move to, let's say you live in St. Louis like me and you want to move to LA. If you know family members in LA, get in contact with them. Ask them if you could stay with them while you search for jobs. Because one of the biggest problems with the job market now is they do not want to hire people out of state or out of the area, because they think that by that they'll have to either A, pay relocation fees, which even if they say they won't pay relocation fees, they just don't want to deal with people out of the area. So a lot of times if you see something that says, we'll not, there's no money up front for relocation, that means that they're not going to hire anybody out of the area. They will just, even if you're like, hey, I'll pay all the relocation fees up front, they just won't do it. that's just what I've experienced from, applying for jobs and whatnot. But anyways, after that, I moved into a job which I'm sure you guys have heard, remember from the past where I talked about my lesbian boss, being crazy and whatnot. That job actually got relocated to another part of the country where they didn't have to pay those workers, they didn't unionize there, they didn't have to pay them benefits, they didn't have to give them health care. They could pay them a lower wage. They could make them work more hours. So, it's kind of disheartening to think that I lost my job to another part of the country that's willing to work for less. But that's kind of the situation the job market's in right now, which is kind of disheartening. I don't like to be negative about things. I think it's so silly when they're like, oh, it's Obama's fault we're losing jobs. Well, maybe he's not doing enough to help, but you can't really blame the, lack of jobs on a certain individual. It's more of an overall mindset of how the country is operating as a whole right now, which is not very well. I'm sure a lot of people realize that, the Occupy Wall Street stuff is going big and strong right now. But my experiences coming out of college is that you need to know the right people. If I could ever give you advice that would pave the way for you having a successful post-college transition, it would be to make sure you network. Because if there's, one thing I've learned is not it's not what you know, it's who you know. I'm sure you've heard that phrase a million times thrown around, but it is actually 100% true. It is not really what you know. You could be a distinguished political scientist with a 3.5 GPA and research, experience and stuff like that, but in the long run they're going to hire that guy who's willing to work for less, who has experience, or that guy that their best friend Danny says, hey, my son needs a job, will you hook him up? That's usually how you get jobs, is knowing people. So I've learned that the hard way. It's kind of funny because I've actually saw a job recently that I thought like, wow, I'm super qualified for this, this is it, this is my big break. And I look and it's like, yeah, you need 3 to 5 years of experience. I'm like, all right, I've got about 3 years of experience in this, and I'm totally qualified for this. And then I look and it's like 30 hours a week with a possibility, in quotation marks, of going full time. And I'm like, is it really to the point in the world where you can be a post-college graduate? They want 3 to 5 years of experience, which if you don't know is kind of ridiculous to think about. And you need to, and they're only willing to give you 30 hours a week and not even full time. Kind of crazy. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this type of thing, let me know, and I will see you next time. Be sure to let me know if there's any particular questions that you guys might like me to address in some future installments of this and in our lead up to Modern Warfare 3. But I'll see you guys next time.